Madam President, last week we saw another tragedy in Gaza, an attack that killed 7 people delivering desperately needed life-saving humanitarian aid. The victims were employees of the World Central Kitchen, an amazing organization run by an extraordinary individual, Jose Andres. They started to feed people in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake, and they've continued their mission in some of the most challenging parts of the world. Andres' innovative and courageous team has been helping people in Gaza since the crisis began in October, providing critical food to millions of innocents caught in the conflict. I joined Mr. Andres in a meeting in our capital just a few weeks ago with a few other senators. He told us his ambitious plans to increase food aid to Gaza. I have always admired his ingenuity and tenacity in taking on these truly life-saving operations for those most in need. Mr. Andres is truly a hero. So my heart goes out to him and the families of those on his team who were recklessly and avoidably killed last week, adding to the more than 200 aid workers who've been killed in Gaza. We have seen a series of seemingly cascading crises in this conflict. The list keeps growing. October 7th, the Hamas attack on Israel that killed 1,200 and took more than 200 people hostage. The widespread destruction, loss of civilian life, and growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza amid Israel's response lacks any long-term strategy and is made worse by Hamas hiding among civilians. The continued holding of Israeli hostages, including one with ties to our home state of Illinois, by Hamas and Hamas' refusal to accept a ceasefire in exchange for their release. The bewildering and inexcusable failure of Israel to step up deconfliction mechanisms for adequate aid delivery, and the failure to recognize that a massive military-only response by Israel will never provide a long-term path to stability and end the violence. I have long said that I do not think the current Israeli or Palestinian leadership is really up to the challenge needed to bring hope, stability, or a viable two-state solution to the region. Early in the conflict, I cautioned Israelis not to be blinded by their pain from October 7th and make the same types of mistakes we made after September 11th, a warning I believe the current leadership in Israel has failed to heed. But if unable to learn from our missteps, then perhaps they should listen to former Mossad chief Mary Dagan, who before his death years ago concluded that Israel over the decades, quote, achieved a long string of impressive tactical successes, but also disastrous strategic failures. Tragically, I'm worried that is the same case today. Chef Andres made a similar point, with which I agree, that Israel's strategy in Gaza is futile and indefensible with so much innocent loss of human life. I have long called for a ceasefire that includes the release of the remaining hostages, as well as a sustained U.S.-led Gaza relief operation that includes food, medicine, and other critical basics. The inexcusable deaths of the World Central Kitchen staff in Gaza are a reminder these steps are needed now more than ever.